Okay, we're back again. Matt's on vacation, and we'll have Dr. Kistler showing up for the service. So I have kind of a free period here. So I had two requests. One came from John Steinklauber, and the other one came from the Wentz. And so if you picked up the handout, that's related to the Wentz question. And so we're going to look at the two topics so far. And if you have any other questions, this is all ad lib. We'll do this pretty much all on the fly so that you'll see how easy some things are easy to do on Logos. I use Logos software. I also use Word, BibleSoft, Accordance, the one that discontinued, which was everybody was using it. My brain's gone blank. I don't have it on this computer. But those were the four main ones that everybody uses. And I've pretty much latched on to Logos, especially since they've changed to a subscription type system, because I get access to a lot of things that I normally wouldn't have access to, but I had anyway, pretty much all of it. But there is one advantage in that it also is AI driven. And it's not AI like ChatGPT and all these other ones that are very secular. It's not that at all. It's redirected to correct theology, or at least Christian theology. So there's a little, I was going to start with just what are the requirements. There's some minimum requirements. If you use Windows, you got to be at least Windows 10. And of course, if you know that Windows 10 is being discontinued, so they will adapt to that as well. And they will, if you have only a Windows 10 system, they will keep supporting the Windows 10. Additionally, it also will handle Mac and also the phones and pads, iPads and Android pads and things like that. But the other thing that's neat is it's also available as a web app. So all you have to do is type in logos.com and you can run it from the web and just sign up with your email information so that you log in, because typically what it will do is it will remember where you were and what you were doing last. So that's handy. Of course, you know, you have to save your work, but it will usually save it for you if you're at a certain point. So let's open with a word of prayer. And like I said, if this gets too small, don't be afraid to move up. All right. We ask for your guidance and direction during this time, especially since some of this is unplanned. We ask that you would enlighten us and that we might learn things and how to do an organized, structured study. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. So yeah, this will be an interesting thing for pretty much everybody. I will work between using the web app and also any other apps. But there is something that's kind of interesting. When you look at this and you go into Logos, you'll see that it gives you a bunch of choices of what you can look at. And over here at this one section here, it'll give you what you can download. You can download the app, you can download it for your phone or for your desktop as well. So you have some things that will provide you and set up. I'm using Logos version 41, which is the newest. And when this change came about, they changed the way they track the numbering system. So most people who have it on their hard drive and not part of the internet, which I run off the internet, they are on Logos 10 or Logos 9. Those were the last two major ones that were hard disk driven rather than cloud driven, if we want to use that terminology. Okay, so there is another variant. I'll show you that right here. This one, if you look at this symbol up here, this is called verbum. It's a second set of information. And so I'll open up multiple types of documents. And verbum is the one that they produce for Roman Catholicism. So it will, instead of saying sermon prep, it will have homily. And they will have some different terminology, but one reason why I like that is when I talk to people who are Roman Catholic, I have a huge collection of books, both electronic and physical. But you get some interesting books with the Roman Catholics, and one of them is Denzinger's, and I use that because Denzinger seems to be pretty level in his commentaries, so that when we look at a verse that the Roman Catholics may use for purgatory, he is pretty honest and straightforward in indicating there's not a lot of support for this, folks. So that's why there is some good information if you need it, but I use that mostly as a backup for doing other work. As you can see, I've got something here in 1 Samuel open, also something in Matthew, and then I'm looking at we did that word study, remember, on one another, and it was one another of the same kind is what we learned. Well, this is part of the information I'd gathered doing that. So you can see there's some interesting information. And you'll see over here there's this little thing called Insights. That's kind of a neat little tool that comes with this. It's right up here in this service, and you just turn it on and off, and you get more landscape. And so if you don't want it, you can just close it out. But I like to have it open because it has several things that you'll find useful when you're doing a study, say in Matthew 24, and as he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, yada, 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 okay. So you have some related books. Now, to get those related books, one of the things you do is you put the books that you would like to see show up in order. So I ordered my Bibles in a certain order, and I'll show you an example here. We're looking at the ESV over here. We're looking at the King James, I believe. No, New American Standard. And here's a list of some of the Bibles that I could change to right now. So if I didn't like the way it was saying the words in the New American Standard, which is the one I usually have up front. I know we have ESV in our pews, but there's some disadvantages to the ESV as well. So anyway, I have King James. I have the Lexham English Bible. I have the Net Bible, New English Translation. That is one that I got involved in back right before the turn of the century, back in 1998. This is something that was being done by Dan Wallace, and I was one of the people that we were able to review some of the information in that ahead of time And so that's been something that I've liked. Then I have the Jewish Bible, which I find interesting also because it gives me a little different perspective on both the New Testament and the Old Testament. And then interlinears, I have the interlinears, and we'll be looking at those in a minute. But this list is fairly long of the key ones that I have structured and organized. So when you see that, you go, oh, okay. So it's easy to change Bibles. I can change from the New American Standard to the ESV, or I can, let's just do the Jewish Bible. So you can see that. And it's bringing up the insights there. And if you want to compare that in your own text, you can, but they do a pretty decent job of keeping the Jewish flavor of the time in there. Okay, so we said related books, so that gives us my ESV Study Bible as one of the things. The Gospel of Matthew is another one, and then and this is a Greek New Testament commentary. So you can look at that and get some of the flavor of what's going on in the text. So if you want a rabbit trail into a book, those are handy. The related passages, when you're looking at this first verse, this gives you other passages that are paralleled or close to, and there's different levels. There's 4 different levels of how you rank a passage and how you would go follow it out to see how it's related. Then we have the textual legacy on this. Let me pull this one up. This is Lexham, and this is the Greek text for that section. So as we look at these texts, we also see that there's things that we can click on and get more information about what that Greek word is. And you can do the same thing over on the Hebrew side if we want as well, by going into insights. But this one, we're not getting a lot of background on it. So anyway, book information. Yeah, we don't need the book information. So we'll drop out of that. Okay, so that's what's going on there. And then, of course, remember when we were doing one another, we had the rings and how it was used in different places. And that's where that came from. And that comes from using what's known as the lemma. And we'll look at some of this. Well, we can actually, I don't need the insights for this. I should probably increase the size. Tell you what, let me jump into, let's see what else we were looking at here. This is another one I had opened. Okay, this is Ephesians chapter 1, verse 3. And we can look at blessed. And blessed comes up as this. But I want to, depending on what you do, when I clicked on it, I did a left click. And that opened up the Greek word for blessed. And if I do a right click, it opens up a table and it brings up the word, and I can look at the word in several different ways. I can look at it as it's translated, highlighted, the service. This is the Louw-Nida number that I'm looking at, and that's just one of the things there that you have. So that gives you a little background on that word. I have several other books up here. Okay, let's go back and see where we are here. Okay, this is 1 John 1. Remember, we did a study on 1 John 1. And so this is some of the information that would come from that. This is the English text, once again, from New American Standard. And we have our ESV study Bible. And then right below that, I have an exegetical commentary. And that series is produced by a company, SIL, and it is excellent. It is probably one of the best exegetical commentary series. And in fact, let me see if we can open that up. And you see the kind of information that you get. Let me see if I can. There's a lot that you can do to change things here, and I'm going to increase this size, and that probably should be better, more visible for you. And of course, it gives you the phrase at the start and what was from the beginning. And of course, the nice thing about what he does in all his materials is he asks lots of questions. And I've used this. In fact, we're doing Ephesians. I sent out the first 14 verses done by this process. And so everybody has that for Ephesians chapter 1. We've looked at with our hands and touched. It would find out it's an aorist, and it's a deponent. It's active, so it's really something that happened. And so you have some good questions that go with it. So there's a lot of things you can do to find answers. And we're going to see now that you've got a little bit of orientation. We had, once again, we had 2 questions. This is now my program that I work with. The rest was online stuff, so I can do that anywhere. And that's what's nice about it, is I can be anywhere and start looking for information and getting an answer to a question. So we had 2 questions. I'll start with the easy one, which was John. He asked me the question, and he mistyped it, but that's okay. He asked on 1 John, he said 5:15, and he really meant 15:5. Actually, he said 5:5, and he should have meant 15:5. He wanted to know in that verse, who were the 12? Well, you can see where I left off. I'm in Genesis 40, which was right where Matt was. So I was planning to pick up with now the next section that Matt was going to get into, which is next week, Pharaoh's dream. So we're going to change and look at, we're going to keep that Bible, and I'm going to go to 1 Cor 15:5. You'll notice I'm no colons, no dashes, just what it is. Let's see if it goes there. And sure enough, there it is. And it says, and that he appeared to Cephas, then to the 12. Okay? Who's Cephas? Anybody know? Bob, right? No. Come on, somebody say it out loud. Yeah. All right. So we know who that is, but what's the context, first of all? Let's go back a bit. This is Paul, right? 1 Corinthians. Now I make known to you, brethren, the gospel which I preached to you, which you also received, in which you stand, by which you are saved if you hold fast to the word which I preached to you, unless you believed in vain. That's an interesting statement in and of itself. That's another rabbit trail that we would normally go on if we were doing a study on that. But that brings up the question, if somebody can believe in vain, then have they really believed? Which I preached to you, unless you believed in vain. He's proclaimed the gospel. We did that study on the proclamation. And Paul has said, I've given you the information. And there's an appearance of having believed. So remember also, this is 1 Corinthians. This is the group that sets the standard for bad churches. Okay? If you want a church that's doing something wrong, this is it. And so I can see where he could say that, and it would not go over well with some churches, but it probably didn't faze a lot of them in Corinth. Because by the time we get to 2 Corinthians, which is really maybe 3rd or 4th Corinthians, depending upon how you number the missing letters in between, that's interesting, the change they went through. Because now the person in Corinthians 5 is now saying, I've repented, let me back in, and they don't want to let him back in. So Paul has to correct them again. Okay, so in verse 3 he says, for I delivered to you, that's because I like to know when it's a plural. In the English, that has the box around it. That's a y'all. It's not one individual, that's a y'all. Very southern of Paul. As of first importance, this was a primary thing. What I also received, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures. Paul appeals to Scripture, which is what we should be doing also. And he goes on to say, before we get to verse 5, he says, and that he was buried and that he was raised on the 3rd day according to the Scriptures. Same phrase twice in a row, according to the Scriptures. Okay, now we have a setting for that verse. And that he appeared to Cephas, then to the 12. So John's question is, who is Paul talking about when he says the 12? Can we name the 12? That's what he's really asking. That's what John's asking. So, if we're actually naming the 12, are we naming the 12 in the upper room? Are we naming the 12 that were walking with Jesus, or that were in the boat, or that were after Judas died? That's really the question. So we'd have to do a little bit of a search there, wouldn't we, to figure it out, is who is that? So to do that kind of a search, you need to be able to phrase it, because if I do there's 2 different types of searches you can do. I can do a precise search and find everywhere the word 12 is mentioned. That's not going to answer the question. So I really need to do a search, a different type of a search. So we'll try that here. Let's see what I've got here. Yeah, that was part of a search on that. I'm going to say it this way. We're going to do this is a precise search. So we'll play that game. We'll see if it'll do a precise search. I don't think it will. Who are the 12? See if the precise search will give me that, or if it'll just get confused. Well, okay, so it's given me a list of books. Let's say all. See what it does now. See, it's changed when I said all. Now it's looking for. Let me go back to the Bible. Let's see if we can see it. If there's anything that will come up with that. It's going out and it's looking at each individual word and trying to pick up the 12. So there we had 12 stones, 12 men. Okay, so we know that's not going to be successful. So we'll change this to a smart search and we'll do the all. And let's put a question mark at the end. Let's see what we get. Okay. We get a bunch of answers, and these are all coming from various books that I have. This is a book called Jesus of Nazareth, Part 2, Holy Week, from the entrance, So this is actually from the Roman Catholics, this book, because I have a lot of books cross-pollinated, so I don't worry about that. And if you'll notice, it says here, well, I can give you a whole summary on this if you'd like. So rather than having to copy and paste everything, now the handout I gave you on Beggar is pulling all these pieces of information together from different sources. So there was some interesting stuff, so I did it in red, so you'll see that in your document, but we'll get to that pretty quick here. Then we have another book, Harper's Bible Dictionary. That's another older dictionary, and it is, it says the number apparently refers to the 12 tribes of Israel, and symbolizes the restoration of the witnesses. So it gets it all wrong. So that's not one that we want. The 12, the central circle of Jesus' disciples. Well, at least we've got that right. Called to be the apostles. The term the 12 appears in all four Gospels, even after the death of Judas at John 20:24. That's where, and compare with Luke 24:9. Lists the 12s in the synoptic gospel. The Acts agree on the number, but not entirely on their names. Matthew 10:2-4, Mark, Luke, Acts, and that continues. So here we get a little chunk of it, but now maybe we do want to summarize this to find out the rest of what it says. This comes from the Erdman's Dictionary of the Bible. I have a hard copy of that, and I also have it electronic. But there's something else that's just popped up here. This is called a fact book. Fact book is really neat because it will take, and if it understands the question, it will give you a bunch of information. So I would have to probably make sure that we know we're talking about the 12 men called by Jesus as his followers. But it will go into that and it will let us search it. And that's a good resource. But let's see what a summary does. Because this said we can summarize this article. So let's see what we get. For a summary by a computer, it gives us some of that same information. And we left off on Acts. The 12 also appears as a designation for the apostles, particularly significant attached to the number itself. Jesus related the number of this group to the 12 tribes of Israel in such a way that the apostles become the core of an eschatological Israel. Interesting information. Another rabbit trail you can go down. So that's kind of neat stuff. A similar idea is expressed at Revelation 21:14, and you compare that with Ephesians 2:20. So maybe when Matt gets to Ephesians 2:20, in his Ephesians study, he'll link it with this. Something you could throw in there as a little hand grenade into the discussion of, well, what about, how does this compare to Revelation 21:14? And Matt will go, let's look at that and see if we can figure out what it relates to. Interesting. Okay, the choosing of Matthias, or Mattathias, depending upon how you want to say it. To me, it's Matthias. After the death of Judas was an attempt to restore the number of the 12, Acts 1:15. And interestingly, I can see the whole thing because I have the book. But the interesting thing is, did that actually restore the number of 12? Was he the actual 12th apostle? Because it was a vote. So this is another search area you can do. And apparently, Paul was actually the 12th. So, interesting, because it required you to have seen the risen Christ. All right, so that kind of looks at that. Let's look at the fact book since that popped up. The fact book is always interesting. And let me close some stuff. Oh, you see here, copy verses. That is another tool you have, in that I can go to a book, and if there's 50 verses and 50 references, I can copy and paste it into this location right here, and it will go ahead and give me that entire list, which is what you see here, of the verses. And I can copy and put that right into a Word document, or into a sermon, or a message, or whatever, or an email. Doesn't matter. But everything I do usually goes into a Word document, and then I move it to something else. And by the way, all these things, if you'll notice on the handout, the footnotes, everything is footnoted by whatever process you prefer to use. So that works out really great for you. So let me close this out, and let me move this over and give us some more landscape. The 12 is a numerical value, and then it says the 12 men called by Jesus. So that's really what we wanted to do, testaments of the 12 patriarchs. So it's looking at it as that. So let's click on that. And it comes up with the 12, a group of people, 12 men called Jesus and his followers. So interestingly enough, this is doing a AI search. And it can be broken down into several areas. And that's the nice thing. It can be broken down into biblical, the library, what I have in my library, and theological articles. No results on theological. So, Lexham Bible Dictionary. So let's stick with that, because that's a pretty good dictionary to use. And it goes through and it lists the Gospels and John, and where you see it in Acts, and Mattathias or Matthias as a replacement for Judas, and referred to the 12. Paul reminds Christians at Corinth, here we go, that the risen Christ appeared first to Cephas, then to the 12. And it references the verse that we started with. So we've kind of gone full circle on some of this. But there's more that we can look at. Is we can look at all the places and the people involved with the 12. We can look at the biblical events. That's interesting. Speeches, and then the key passages. And anything that, this has got pretty much everything opened up, because I tend to like to look and see all the different rabbit trails. But I have access to various journals and other things that we'll have resources, and here's our dictionaries again with our Lexham dictionary. This is what we're in. Now, I'm going back up here. Where did I go? Where's my dictionary? Okay, here we go. We will look at this. This is our word for apostello. Now, this is the lemma again. If you see these little round circles, you remember the round circle we looked at a little bit ago? This is what you're looking at, and this is the verses where that's referred to. And this would actually tell you how to pronounce the word. Let's see if it'll do it loud enough. I don't think it is. No, I may have it turned off. Sorry about that. But this gets us here, and this is our lemma again. And that's our root, not our root word, but that's how it's used. That's our what we'd say the dictionary word form. And then more verses. And that gets us to Revelation, so that's everywhere it appears, which is nice to know. And then you can save it as a passage list, open 103 passages. It's translated as a pronoun. It's implied subject verb, Basels 12. Okay, where's our dictionaries? Here we go. Now it only pulls up my first 5 choices here. Yale is not one of my, or the Anchor Group dictionary is not one of my favorites, but I'll use all of these depending upon what I'm trying to do. And that's, now down here, there's locks on these dictionaries. I don't own these dictionaries electronically, but I do own this one physically, and I can unlock this by just scanning my ISBN code in my dictionary, and it'll unlock it for me. So that's now my dictionary that I can have access to. But if I want this information right now, I'll click on it, and here it comes up and it says, well, this is what it would cost, but I get a discount. And so that would be what I would pay for if I bought it. Well, I've already got it, so I don't need to do that. So that's, it helps you for anything that you think is essential you need. And there are a few things I run into occasionally that I go, well, I don't have it on my shelf, but I need it, so I'll add it. So we do that. This journal I don't have. And sermons by different people who have done something on the sections that we're looking at. Books from my library, fact book tags. We've already kind of looked at those. The bookstore, Dig Deeper. Okay, so if you want to go deeper, it gives you other places you can look at and topics you can consider. An angel rescues the apostles from prison. Well, maybe your question really is, was it an angel or was it actually Christ? If you look at some of the cults, to them, Michael is Christ. Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons will duplicate things like that. So you have that as potential areas that you can look at. So the workflows, we didn't talk about that, guides. Over here, on this side, we haven't looked at any of this. We have an area of documents. This is documents I have, documents other people have. If I post something that I do and I want to share that with other people, using the word share correctly, meaning you can have access to my stuff, I can do that, and they do that for other people as well. So you can use those to the document section to expand your knowledge and also share your knowledge with other people. The guides and workflows, this is a list or a look at all the different types of guides, whether I want to do a word study, an exegetical guide, a person study. Let's say I want to know everything about Paul or Peter or Ebenezer. There's a good name. Obadiah. So, you've got all these guides that will guide you through how to do that. So it really makes using Logos simple and easy. All right. We also have tools. This is a list of my favorite tools right here. The timeline, when was this happening compared to something else? Atlas, where is this physically located? That helps there. Bible browser, I search for certain things. This is the sense of a word, and let me go look in here. I didn't want that. Go here, no. I want to go in, view. I want to view my interlinear, and I can do that two ways. I can do it this way, go right into the current text and insert the interlinear. And I'm online, so I'm going to turn that off, and let's go back into here. And let's go here. Let's move this over. And here is our 1 Corinthians 15, where we were, and he appeared to the 12. If you look at this, and if I click here, it moves us right down here. This is the Greek text. And this is what I used back when we were working with some of the language things in 1 John. And it says, he appeared. And we look at that, and down here we have the word sense. And that's what that other section will do, is tell you what is the sense of the word in the context it's being used. To appear in sight. He appeared in sight to Peter. And of course we can get Peter's name here from the Aramaic equivalent. Okay? And then to the 12. Now here is interesting. It says cardinal. What, were they cardinals? I thought there were 12. What does cardinal mean? Does anybody know? It's a cardinal number. It's a number. Okay? That's what it means. It's the 12, the number 12. It is exactly that, and it's a cardinal number. It's an actual number. Okay, so that's why it's symbolic, and it represents the 12 apostles. And that's what they were always known as, the 12. Even without Judas, it was the 12. And so we saw that as we did that part of the study. Okay, very interesting, but that's kind of neat. That was one of our tools that we were looking at, the sense. Bible study, the canvas, I would look like that, but that's just what it sounds like. Painting with a canvas. Who was it cited by? You have the quotes in Scripture. And who was it cited by? That's what you like to know. Or where did the quote say, all Cretans are? liars. Is that correct or wrong? But we could search that and get that answer. Okay, so then you have a concordance, and there's two different searches for concordances, so you got to be aware of that. Copy Bible verses, I showed you that earlier. Explorer, that's just another search engine. The fact book, we talked a little about that. Highlight, if you want to highlight in your text, you can do that. I generally don't do that. There's an information button, which is a lot like the insights button, but it will give you a little bit different information, and there's two different information type sources. One just tells you what the book is, and we looked at that one, and this other one gives you information about what's going on in the verse. So that's different. Media. If I don't want to see pictures, if I want to see maps, anything like that. Notes, passage analysis, personal books. I have my own personal books that are in there that they don't have. I have books. There are books, Don Kistler will be coming here. There are books that Don Kistler produces that are not in here, that I have, that I can add. Those are my personal books. Do the same thing, the ISBN code, and it now is in their system. And I have access to it. So that's good. And I can actually take and copy the pages from a book I have and put it in there, and becomes one of my books because they don't have it. And there's books that are old that people don't have. So that's one of the way to get them into your system. Power Lookup. Power Lookup is really a good tool. It will cut through a lot of things and get right to if you ask the question correctly, it will get right to it very pointedly. Pronunciation, how to pronounce something. This is another search tool, a little different. This is text comparison. I use that, and I'll compare my 5 Bibles, my 5 main Bibles at one time, so that I'll get a difference between them. And we can probably do that right here with this. Tools, compare. Here we have our little word compare, so let's look and compare, and we'll see what it brings up. We're in 5.5, compare the different versions. Here we go. Let me make that bigger. This is 5.5. Here's the differences. I started with my New American Standard. It's 0 difference because it's our standard that we're using. The ESV has 8% difference. And it shows you where the difference is. Capital He, lowercase he. I really don't like that. I really prefer, if we're talking about deity, I prefer it capitalized. So yeah, that's one of my gripes about the ESV. New King James, the difference is, instead of saying appeared to, it's was seen by. Well, we looked at that. We saw the sense of it was talking about actually having seen somebody. So we know that's okay. That's not a bad change. And then to the 12, it has by the 12. So there's a 28% difference. Lexham Bible, once again, lowercase, don't like that, but it's only 17% difference. And then the Net Bible is lowercase again, and that's an 8% difference, just like the ESV. So they're the same there, but it goes on and it compares each of the verses. So that's what the comparison will do. And it will do as many as you tell it to do. I've got it limited to 5. But if I want to do 40 and compare 40 different translations, I can do that. So that's kind of where we're going. I'm almost burned the whole time just doing John's question, but let me finish this. Looking at the tools. Then we have a workflow editor. Things that are my favorites, that's what you see down over here for personal books and other things. Sentence diagrammer. That's what I use. I'm not the best at diagramming. I enjoyed that in elementary school because I never saw it again after elementary school. But I see it when I work with Greek and the need for it. So that's a handy tool. So these are all tools that you get with this program. So let's go back now and see if we can look a little at the issue of begging. And I started to do a search on it here. So this is a topic guide. And so I did a topic first on beg. I just wanted to know what beg was like. And Easton's Bible Dictionary has a definition, so there it is. And then there's other dictionaries that have definitions as well. And we can look at more. And you'll see how many we have. We've got about 7 that want to talk about begging. We can go to the fact book and look at begging, and I think I have the fact book up here somewhere right there. And that was the 12, and we're going to change that to beg. And then you get the concept, and it comes back again to Easton's, and it gives you a bunch of key passages. And save as a passage list. And here it's just showing you the 5, but you can pull up even more passages. There's quite a few on begging. Key passages, and then biblical senses. Now the sense of how it's used is to beg for something that is indispensable or necessary. Probably food and help. The verb is to ask, to obtain without cost, normally due to financial destitution. A noun, a very poor person who lives by begging, for a beggar. So those were the search areas and the dictionaries. We've got the same set of dictionaries. And realize these are 2 different ones here, even though they say International Standard. There's updates. Sermons, and Lancelot Andrewes, famous Puritan. He has a sermon that he has preached on that. And so that is something I have access to, as well as, what do we got here? 4 sermons, 2 of 4 sermons by Basil of Caesarea, Cyril of Jerusalem, Benjamin Douglas, Thomas à Kempis, a little Catholic thrown in. Fact book tags. There's tags for each of the dictionaries. And now you get down to your guides. We talked a little about guides. So this will take you back to the topic guide, which we came from the topic guide to here. And there's another one, the biblical topic guide. So we're going to look at that. Here's the other topic guide. We'll switch ones here. This is the word beggar. And there's references on how it's used and some of the issues, poor. If you'll read the notes that I have in that handout, you'll see that there becomes a problem with, over time, of how begging was done. It was not approved. It's not part of the 10 Commandments. It's not part of Levitical issues. It was not included. As it was set up by God, begging was not an approved thing. So now you have to realize that as things changed over time, and that's kind of what the set of documents that you have will show, the deterioration of the society, people were led to do that. And the laws originally set up had made to make it so that people would not be destitute if they were part of the Hebrew or the Jewish society. Okay, so we've got biblical topic guide. This reference to the biblical topic guide. So here with a biblical topic, you have all these areas that you can actually fill out and do, and it actually develop. You can do your own topical study from that. That was the 12, and that's a workflow. You can do an inductive Bible study if you would like to do that. All right, so we're getting close to Joe showing up. So I am going to close with that. Bottom line, if you read the articles and the red sections in begging, you'll see that there's some real issues. One of the good articles is by John Eadie. He's on probably the second or third page. I put a lot of red on his because Eadie is very exegetical and very thorough. So you can take a look at that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close, and we'll do these things from here on in, probably, unless I have a special topic. So you're more than welcome to send me an email and say, hey, do a study on chickens in the Bible. I don't know, but you can pick your topic and we'll do a study. And it can be off of a verse, it can be off of a topic, it can be off of anything. Because as you can see, when you've got access to thousands and thousands of books, you can go pretty much anywhere in Scripture and get answers. All right, let me close. Father, we're grateful that we can get together and that you give us tools to help us search answers and to find solutions to questions we have. And we ask also for your continued guidance and direction in the coming service. We ask that you would be with Dr. Kistler as he brings the message. We ask this